Okay, welcome everybody. I think I want to get started just in the essence of time. And I'm Amy Lee. I'm the Senior Associate Director of Alumni and Donor Engagement at UMass Lowell. And I'm so happy to kick off our homecoming week with a panel of very distinguished young alumni. And we're really thrilled to highlight our University Young Alumni Award winners. This is our distinctive highest honor for achievement and service. So I really appreciate these alumni coming back to talk about their experiences at UMass Lowell and in the workforce. And as we kick off homecoming, we just want to be able to celebrate. We want to share some memories and think about the inspiring work that our alumni do and what they bring to the alumni community and how they can help students and help one another. I have Reja Gamble, who's the Senior Associate Director of Alumni Relations, on the call, and Reja is going to help me with the questions in the chat and, welcoming everyone through. She's going to do all the technology pieces for me today. So if you have any questions, I just feel free to please put them into the chat, and we'll leave some room at the end for some questions. And basically what I would like to get doing is start off. I'm just going to briefly introduce the panelists, but I'd really like them to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about where they are in what industry they are in. And our panelists today are Nana Bonsu from class of 2010, Thalia Chodat from class of 2017, Corey Lanier, who has degrees from 14 and 15, and Fang Zhang, who's 15 and class of 20. So I'm going to start up. I see Thalia up in my left corner. So Thalia, I'm going to start with you. And if you just want to give us a little brief update on what you're doing and where you are. I also wanted to note too that in addition to this being a great young alumni distinguished panel, it's also a bit of a regional panel where it shows our reach. UMass Lowell is all over the country. Thalia is in Michigan, Fang is in Massachusetts, Nana's in DC, and Corey Lanier is in Texas. So it just shows how the great reach of our alumni and that we're having success all over the country. So Thalia, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thank you. This is exciting. I graduated with a business degree in marketing, and that is exactly what I'm doing, oddly enough. I do have a B2B marketing company, AZLA Marketing. I've been running that for about 6 years. We work with small companies in the technical space, so SaaS, cybersecurity, telecommunications, doing all things marketing.
All right, great. Fang, I see you're next.
Thank you, Amy. And surprisingly, I'm not the last because I'm very used to getting to be the last person due to my last name. So, hey everyone, nice to meet you. My name is Fang, and I'm a double river hawk. Graduated in 2015 with my master in chemistry, and then 2020, the COVID year, with my doctorate in biochemistry. And right now I'm working in Pfizer as a senior scientist in drug development. And I think one fun mention brought up by Reja is that all panelists today are actually used to be a member of the Student Alumni Ambassador. So it's great to have another small reunion here.
Yes, that's so fun. I'm happy that we were able to get you all together, even virtually. Nana, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, for sure. Thank you, Amy. Pleasure to see everyone here. Hope everyone is excited to be here today. I think we've got a really all-star cast. And it's great because I know every one of the panelists, so it's really awesome to be here with everyone. So I am also a double river hawk. I have my first degree in business and finance and marketing in 2010. And then I also got my master's in the education program, education administration in 2015. But the early part of my career, I spent the early part of my career in higher education. So I worked at UMass Lowell through the Navitas program for about 7 years, really in different functions. I kind of started in student services and then kind of graduated into marketing, business development, through the education side. And then I really gravitated to a different, I did that for about 13 years, and then I gravitated towards e-commerce. So I spent 2 years at Amazon, and I'm currently now at Walmart, in also very different capacities. So I'm one of those people that have the non-linear traditional paths, and we can talk about that a little bit later on. But in my current role now, I spearhead business development and strategy for Walmart's onboarding seller program. And so we work a lot closely with sellers who are looking to onboard, sell on Walmart, and be able to generate revenue for themselves. But yeah, I'm excited to be here. Looking forward to definitely share more about my career journey. One additional thing I do say is I still have my foot in the education sector, and I do own a education business that is in Ghana. And so just wanted to share that with you.
Great, thank you. And thank you for sharing about your education piece. I'm sorry I didn't announce that when I
No worries
introduced you
at
at
all.
first. Okay, Corey, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Amy. So my name's Corey. I graduated from UMass Lowell with a degree in political science and criminal justice back in 2014, and then did an extra year with a business certificate. UMass Lowell is super important to me. My wife and I are both Riverhawks. My mom actually is a current student. She went back to school, so super proud of her and all that. About me, I moved to Austin, Texas about 7 years ago. I have two wonderful children, Carter and Sophia, and been in the staffing industry since I graduated, and been with Google for the past 6.5 years or so. Working in recruiting, more so now in more of like an operations enablement type of a space, but still centered around staffing.
All right, that's great. Now, Corey, since you're up, you just finished. I'm gonna start with you as I do some questions. And what I'd like to do is we'll ask each of you the questions. We'll spend some time. You can spend some time answering, and then if anyone has any questions, please pop them into the chat, and Rija will we'll have some time at the end for that. But I think, Corey, why don't you start off and just talk to us a little bit about like what inspired you to pursue your career in recruiting and with Google? I think, did you start off as a criminal justice department in the criminal justice field or as a major?
Nope.
No?
Nope,
Okay.
not at all.
Oh, okay. All right, that's my mistake.
No, it's okay.
Okay, well, why don't you tell us a little bit more about what inspired you?
Yeah. So I got degrees in political science and criminal justice. Realized, long story short, maybe that going into law wasn't going to be the right space for me, and so I think I for sure fell into recruiting. I kind of figured going to sales post graduating. Ended up doing sales with a staffing firm. And I think what's really the question is, why have I stayed on this career path within recruiting? And it kind of boils down to, I think I'm just a really nosy person. I really enjoy, I think a career can be one of the most important parts of someone's life. They spend 40 hours a week at their job. They probably spend a lot more time thinking about their job. So I found when I started doing the recruiting job, I just really enjoyed hearing people talk about what they did, hear what they're proud about their job, hear what really excites them, or equally, why are you frustrated about your job? What can we do to try and make that better? And that's kind of evolved into, working at a few different companies. I've been super fortunate to work for Google for the past 6.5 years, where I did get to recruit for a lot of our sites and did get to hire a lot of really, really talented people for Google. But now my job has really shifted to, how can I make your job easier working at Google? And so I think that's kind of that theme of, what can I do to kind of make things easier for you, make things better? And that's been super inspirational. I think the best feeling that I can have is when I do something, complete a project, and someone is just grateful and they can do their job better. And so I think, finding that meaning in whether it's hiring people, whether it's building, different programs or reports, whatever, that's what's really kept me inspired and really got me energized to come into work every day. I think you're muted, Amy. Sorry.
Oh no, that's great. I love to hear stories as well as what inspired people. So that must be exciting to do that every day to hear about why people want to come to work. Nana, why don't you tell us a little bit about what inspired your career?
Yeah, for sure. I guess really my inspiration actually started at UMass Lowell. I hate to be so cliche, but I did, as a student, I think when I was at Lowell, one of the really great things I enjoyed there was the chance to explore, right? And really test your limits in terms of like like knowing different people and really getting to meet diverse people, right? I think Lowell's done a really good job of that. And when I was a student, I was very heavily involved in student services. I was a senior class president, ASAO president, heavily involved with NESB. Additionally, when I worked at Navitas, I was spearheading some of the important work of bringing internationalization to the campus. So that really exposed me to business at the education level. So for the early part of my career, what inspired me was really helping, right? I was very much a servant leader coming from UMass Lowell. When you're part of a student organization, you have a group of people that you're spearheading, and so that really kind of transcended me into the career. And when I graduated, one thing I can still say to this day is I'm always looking for that opportunity to help someone. I'm always looking for that opportunity to assist or provide some information that someone didn't have it before. And so that's been kind of the common theme in my career, and the inspiration around it. Just being able to help people, whether when I've been in recruiting, I've been in business development, I've been in strategy, and a lot of it is, I think when I was at Amazon, we called it customer obsession, being obsessed about, understanding your customer and finding out how to help them, do better, how to help them improve. And so in my current role now, I'm helping sellers who typically wouldn't have ever been able to sell in Walmart. They would have never been able to be approved or anything like that. So I'm helping them navigate. I'm helping them build out strategy for them to be able to grow their business. And so that inspiration from just really when I was in ASAO, we were trying to get the message of diversity out. We were trying to let people know about the African culture, and working with different organizations. And I think that's really kind of inspired my career journey.
Right, that's great. I love to hear that story, especially that assisting piece. That's so wonderful that you really got that at UMass Lowell and wanted to share that in your career and going forward. All right, Fawn, what inspired your career path?
I would say it's not my parents, because both my parents, they're journalists, and basically they work in media and production, and they always wonder, why didn't I just follow their footsteps? Because I would have many advantage if I just followed their footsteps. I would just go to a production or movie school and then coming out as a whatever producer, or who knows. But I always have a strong passion towards, helping others in the way, but also I'm very curious. So that lead me right into the field of hardcore science. And I started chemistry from my bachelor's, and then coming to UMass Lowell, keep continuing my career in the chemistry field. And when I was receiving my education in UMass Lowell, I think what's very beneficial to me is to help me understand the things that I learned is beyond than just the knowledge itself, but how you actually use it to benefit your greater community around you. And that's why I decided to join the industry after my graduation from my PhD. That enables me to kind of amplify the science that I learned throughout the process, but also leveraging on the people experience that I accumulated from Lowell, and help me in many things such as project management, people management, and eventually maybe using both tools to serve at my end goal, which is to be useful to our communities and humanities in general. So that's what inspired me in my career.
Thank you for sharing that. I love to hear that about how your science, that wanted you, inspired you to help the community. That's wonderful. Thalia, why don't you tell us about what inspired your career path?
I'm glad 3 people went before me. I just went into business and marketing because I knew that I was a good writer, and I knew that I was very like business oriented and operations oriented. I had no idea what I was going to do. I just knew that I was good at working and good at those things. I didn't have a hard time getting a job. Um, doesn't mean it was the best job, but and then when the agency that I worked for, that was actually in Lowell, the owner was closing it. It was a small marketing agency similar to the one that I have today. He decided to close his. And when I was looking out at jobs at other agencies or full time, I found that in the business world, a lot of roles are very focused on one task, just email marketing, just social media, just website. And I had gained a lot of skills at the agency that were cross-functional, more project management, understanding business goals, working with leaders. And I kind of just went on a whim and was like, okay, a couple of the former clients from this agency are willing to pay me, so let's rock and roll. So I don't know if I was necessarily inspired at any moment. I kind of just found a path forward with what I had. And I'd say what keeps me going is that I'm able to problem solve for these companies that are growing. And it happens to be related to marketing.
Oh, that's great. I love how you talked about how your transferable skills, that you were able to use those to find, path through your industry. Do you want to tell us a little bit how UMass Lowell inspired your career journey? And then if there was someone in particular, whether it was a professor or a class, or I know you were involved with a lot of activities, if there was something special at UMass Lowell that really helped you succeed.
Yeah, I would say I was always one of those students that was like a solid B- student in a couple honors classes, but not in an honors program in high school and college. I really struggled with like sitting in a classroom and hyper focusing on doing homework. I grew up going to a Montessori school, which is wonderful. I also think it maybe didn't teach me the best studying skills, or it didn't enable me to learn those skills. So I'm a little bit more, I just had more of a Montessori method as to how I approach things. I found UMass Lowell to be super accepting of that. I found that I was super occupied with extracurriculars, programs, having hands, feeling kind of like what Nana said, like feeling like I'm building something and contributing to something. I felt like I could actually use my business skills in practice by building a club or contributing to whatever it was. And I think most professors and the staff, Regia, the whole business department, Deb Finch, Ralph Jordan, that whole crew. I mean, everyone, the dean, everyone there was like, they recognized you on campus, or they acted like they did at least, and were super accepting of what you brought to the table. And didn't, it wasn't like, I always felt like, oh darn, I'm like so involved, but I'm not this A+ student. It wasn't that environment, right? Where it was like, you had to be an A+ student around the honor roll to be feeling like you're fitting in. It doesn't mean other schools are, but it felt like, okay, you bring a lot of skills to the table. And I think lastly, what's super important is I worked virtually full time the entire time I was going to UMass Lowell. I worked at the food court for Aramark serving food. Shockingly, they offered me a marketing internship at the same rate that I was serving food for, but that's fine. And that was that was literally my first marketing internship. And then I just kind of was like, okay, wow, like what are other marketing gigs that I could get around here and kind of get paid for? I worked for a UMass Lowell alumni at her marketing agency, then ended up working at an agency in Lowell. So I think being able to provide those opportunities to actually be compensated and get real world experience, I can absolutely say the reason why I'm 30 and in the position that I am career wise is because I literally never stopped working, even when I was in college. And the environment at UMass Lowell was remarkably supportive throughout that.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. I know that that's one of our our missions at UMass Lowell is and one of the chancellor's missions is to make sure that everyone is having that career connected experience and paid career connected experiences. So I'm happy to hear that that worked so well for you. Fang, why don't you tell us a little bit about how UMass Lowell prepared you, and if there's someone or something that was really resonated with you while you were on campus?
Sure. Besides of the Student Alumni Ambassador Program, so if you haven't heard of it, talk with Rija afterwards. And it's a great program. Again, so when I came to UMass Lowell, I came through a pathway program. And for any international student, you may understand pathway programs are for students to get to know a school before they are kind of fully committed or prepared for the programs. Since especially when we are applying abroad, any school to us means no difference. It's just a namesake. So UMass Lowell is the school that accepted me. So I was thinking, oh, UMass Lowell, I never heard of it. So there you go. I come to take a look. And in my first day at UMass Lowell, actually, I met Nana. He was the first person I met on UMass Lowell campus in the Navitas program. And throughout the program, I then enrolled into my master's program. And then at that point, I had the choice. I was thinking, should I do my PhD in UMass Lowell or at other school? Because I know I always want to finish my advanced degree. But I think after some consideration, I decided to stay in UMass Lowell to continue my education there. So UMass Lowell chose me at first, and then I believed in UMass Lowell and then continue my journey with the school. And the reason I want to continue my journey with the school because of is the inclusion. And by inclusion is more than just the general sense of including people outside of the community to join, but that inclusion is from every level of the school, either from this, you can see that on students, on faculty, on staff, or on administrators. And if there's opportunities you want to pursue or areas you want to develop, you just need to reach out to people and they will try to open a door for you or they will connect you to the next person. And that's how I get myself involved in many programs at UMass Lowell, such as Student Alumni Ambassador, such as Office of Multicultural Affairs, and many other things. And all these things really prepared me for my career in a more holistic approach. It enables me to meet people I would never thought I would have met if I just stayed wholly focused in my programs. And it also opens up many kind of doors for me to get exposed and to refresh my kind of understanding on how industry works. So all these things enabled me to be well prepared when I'm ready to transition into my next career.
Oh, that's great. It sounds like UMass Lowell gave you a great broad look at a lot of different industries, even though you were focused on science, that you were able to relate in different ways. And I'm glad that you had that experience. And I'm also glad that we can have a little mini reunion for homecoming week with you and Nana. I know you said he was the first person that you met on campus. So given that it's homecoming week, that's just like a really great moment. So Nana, why don't you tell us too what inspired like how UMass Lowell prepared you and if there was a specific program or thing about UMass Lowell that really helped you or still stays with you today?
Yeah, thanks, Amy. I think I a lot of times when I reflect, I say I actually owe UMass Lowell a lot more than UMass Lowell owes me, right? I came to UMass Lowell from a very non-traditional background. Michael Belcher is on the call. I remember getting that acceptance offer from Michael, and I was accepted into a connections program actually, because I went to a vocational high school from Worcester, and so typically I was not the college student, right? I was kind of going to traditional vocational school to work, and through that, my parents were like, "You have to go to college." And so I came through this non-traditional pathway, non-traditional program, and one of the first instances of just being at the university, I remember learning about student clubs and really reaching out to. I remember at the time it was Pasha McTyson was the advisor for ASAO. Also, Kristen is on the call as well. I'll get I remember from Pasha, one of the things that she mentioned was um, use your resources. The university is a place where it's a place for you to grow. You're not in high school anymore. You're in a new environment, and if you don't take that initial step and find the resources, you won't be able to succeed. And that stuck with me because I was coming from a background where I didn't really know what college was like. I had nobody I was a first generation as well. No one was there to prepare me or be able to say, hey, this is what you should do or help navigate the university life for me. And so when I got involved in student activities, getting connected with Pasha, people like Brenda, ultimately running into Kristen's office to learn about career programs, learning about like what you guys are doing now on this call. When I got into learning about what career services, I was like, oh, there's a whole team here who can help you prepare for an interview. They can even help you line you up with jobs. And this was all new to me, right? So those things really inspired me, and those things were really these people essentially along the journey. I feel like I always say I owe UMass Lowell a lot because if I didn't go to this university, if I went to a different university, I might not have had that same experience. And part of it was again utilizing and making sure you know your resources. So I knew student services. I knew who the people were there. Where I was even on Marty Meehan's interview panel. That's something that I would have never thought as a kid from Worcester. I would actually be interviewing the chancellor of a university, who's now the chancellor of, who's now the UMass president. And so those little nuances in terms of just being able to connect with people on campus, knowing who the director of admission was, knowing who student services or where to get money to do programs. All of those things really, and all of those people that were involved in that process really helped me get to where I am today. And so that's kind of like that. Those were the key people that really helped me along the way, and just helped me be. And it wasn't they held my hand and walked me through. No, they helped me navigate and they helped me go through challenges. When there were issues, I had people to rely on. I had people to say, okay, this is how you should try to navigate it. This is how you should, and then also help you learn how to solve your own problems. And so those were really, those were some of the people. And then I think the last piece I'll mention is I remember when it's funny because Rija and I talk a lot, but I remember my first instance of the student alumni program. Heather Marquez had set that up, and I was one of the first people. And we had to go to an event where we had to go talk to people who had never met before. And it was the most funny, but the most rewarding thing ever because it set the path for like that's what the job force is going to be like. You would have to walk into a room, you would not know who any of these people are, but you're here to tell them about the university. You're here to help them connect to the university, and then again, just strike up conversations. And so all of these different resources and services and people along the way help really inspire me.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad that you were able to have those experiences. I know sometimes it is hard to meet new people, as we know there's a lot of SAA members on the call too, but it's really rewarding. And I know you mentioned Michael and Kristen. Thank you, my colleagues, for joining today and supporting the alumni. We really appreciate that. Corey, why don't you tell us a little bit about how UMass Lowell prepared you and anything particular that you want to share about something special from the university?
Yeah, absolutely. When I think about my time at UMass Lowell, I think it's a lot about opportunities, and that the amount of opportunities we were given was pretty incredible. I think I resonate a lot with kind of Nana's story about just coming to university and there's things that you could do that didn't think were possible. And even thinking back on it now, it's like who was given 18-year-old me, that ability to go and do that. But it was always incredible. I think it's always stuck with me. When people would ask me, like when I was in college, why'd you pick UMass Lowell, or if I was talking to high school students, I think what I loved about the university was, if you were somebody who wanted to go to school, go home, you could do that at UMass Lowell. You could do that at any university. But if you wanted to get involved, if you wanted to have an internship, you wanted to, join a club, you could just do it. And it was so inviting. Everywhere I went, I never did anything at UMass Lowell where it felt like I was intruding or I was a bother to somebody. And on top of that, when you did get involved with something, it was pretty massive responsibility. So I remember being in student government. I thought, hey, I think there could be a better way that we dish out and allocate this money to reward clubs that are actually doing stuff. And the advisor said, okay, let's do it. And they supported me talking to treasurers of other universities, attending conferences where I could learn about how other universities, whether it's a 40,000 person school or if it's a 5,000 person school, how do they do it? And those are opportunities that, I don't even get to travel now for work or go to conferences, but at UMass Lowell, I felt like I was always going to different universities, taking road trips that were sponsored by the school. And I think that stuck with me within my career, because I find that if there's something I'm interested in or I want to try and pursue, sometimes it can be really difficult to have the courage just to go and do it. And maybe you fail, but more likely you're asking for help and you can lean on others. And that's something that I think a lot about with UMass Lowell was I had so many people that were invested and supported me. And some of them are in this call too, which is great to see y'all. But that's something where I think I've been able to do well with my career just because I had that exposure to just go and try something and figure out if you like it or not, which really ties into what staff person made a difference. And many of us probably know Amy Liss, I think, was that person for me, who from pretty much the start of my time at UMass Lowell and even to today, right, she's somebody that I can really rely on. And she was somebody who would allow me to be super vulnerable when I needed it, but also could give me some real tough love when I needed it, and to kind of call me on my BS, which I definitely needed time and time again. But somebody who could support me like that, I think was instrumental during that time. And I think you'll always have those people in your life, but just somebody that I could rely on. And Amy was my person, but I think everybody here on this call probably has somebody at the university that invested in them when they didn't have to. And I think that makes UMass Lowell a pretty special place. And I don't know if other universities are quite like that.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. Right, we'll have to let Amy know that you mentioned her, that she's a great help to our students. Your responses are great because it's really explaining so much about the opportunities at UMass Lowell, the resources, the kind of community that it is. And I think that leads a little bit into our next question, because when we thought about hosting this panel, we wanted to also talk to alumni who had been great students, who had been out in the world a little bit, and ask a little bit about how important lifelong learning is to you. Like, we always want to, as a university, offer our students and our alumni ways to grow. So ways that, you're able to keep learning. How do you embrace change? And if there are challenges, how did the university help you through that? And so, Thalia, I'll let you maybe answer that question first. And any way you want to take it, whether just sort of like embracing change and lifelong learning, whatever resonates with you.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say I think this is usually the case for most UMass Lowell students that I've even met. So I don't know that I need to necessarily propose that people do this, but sort of staying humble and taking things in stride. Work and life, you're probably experiencing it now in college, but this whole adulting thing is remarkably challenging, and it really doesn't ever stop or end. I think it's important to handle the situations that are thrown at you, understanding that you can control what you can control and nothing's really worth freaking out about. I understand that means I'm not belittling things that happen. Finding a job is remarkably challenging. Making enough money to support you and your family and pay rent and get a mortgage, all these things that those future goals that people have, move up in your company, those things are really challenging. I think it's important to stay humble, recognize you can always continue, learn and grow, handle everything in stride, one step at a time in front of you. So much is in your control. Utilize your resources. Recognize when something isn't and let it roll off your shoulders. Like, don't get high blood pressure over it. Life is hard enough. Don't take yourself too seriously. And going back to staying humble, I manage a lot of people and I still don't know what I'm doing. Not a clue, right? Like I learn something new and I'm corrected all the time by people. That's okay. That's terrific. Please, like I need to keep learning and growing. Otherwise, I'm going to fail the clients that I'm working for, fail the people that I'm working alongside. I'm sure a lot of people feel that way. So if you're never going to get to a point where you stop learning and the expectations change. I was talking to an employee the other day and she was like, it's really uncomfortable. This is really uncomfortable because she was being asked to do things consistently to grow and change, right? By our team and by the clients. It's going to be uncomfortable. You should be living in an uncomfortable state, not where you're crawling out of your skin, but work is going to be uncomfortable. You're not going to show up and know everything you have to do. If you do, you probably should get promoted and be going and doing something else and looking for the next challenge. So just stay humble, recognize there's so much more to learn. Like if someone corrects you, great, fabulous. You can blush a little bit and move on and please learn from it. And your attitude and the way you approach things in work and in life is going to make a massive difference. People want to work with people who are problem solvers and can shake things off and find a solution. Absolutely nothing needs to get in your way.
That is great advice, Taya. I love the about being comfortable with being uncomfortable. I think that's a great lesson. Fang, do you have anything that you wanted to share around embracing change and challenges?
Yeah, I would definitely say like by graduating during the year of COVID, a lot of things changed. I did my defense online, which is very unconventional, and I had to miss we had to miss the commencement because it was apparently the year that everyone's staying at home. But thankfully, UMass Lowell made up for us the year after, and so. We say to people that change is really the only thing constant in the world, especially nowadays, with the exponential growth of technology and how we use technology, how we interact with artificial intelligence, how we apply automation in our day to day, and like Talia mentioned, when you are uncomfortable with the learning process, that means you maybe are doing the right thing because that is putting you into a growth mindset that is helping you to get used to how the new environment or the new world kind of operates in a way. So we are very used to the kind of a platform state. That's where we rely on, where we get off, where we step our first step on. But afterwards, we should utilize that to innovate, to be creative, and to fully appreciate the opportunity offered by the uncertainty of our day and age. So yeah, change is really enabled to me by how UMass Lowell gave me a lot of space to try, to fail, and in a good way, and then to succeed afterwards. So yeah, that's my experience.
Great. That's great. Thank you for sharing that, Fang. I know coming through COVID, that was a very hard time for so many students, but I like that your approach to it is inspiring. Nana, why don't you share something about embracing change and learning and how that affects, how your approach to your life and your career?
For sure. I think I like to default to the Amazon principle of learning and being curious. If you haven't read that, I would say definitely take a second and just Google it. And it says leaders are never done learning, always seek to improve themselves. I think lifelong learning is essential and especially in this day and age, it's essential for personal growth and professional growth. Especially with today, just everything is rapidly changing. Nowadays, I can't even sit in a meeting without hearing the word AI. All right. And it's like you hear AI and it's got a lot of work attached to it, it's got a lot of dollars attached to it. And then you can't sit in a meeting and say, oh, I don't know what that is, right? So it's super crucial, especially as you're a student now, to continue learning. When I was a student, one of the areas where I did a lot of learning was really because I was very interested in kind of business and hopefully having my own one day. I took a non-paid internship, and that non-paid internship I learned through it was about a 6-month internship. I learned more about marketing than I'd ever done on campus, and that was kind of what sparked me into where I am today. I say that it's because when I was in that internship, my first job out of college, I went to do I studied I worked in finance, and I quickly realized, having worked there, that that was not for me. Having worked in that market, I was like, wait, I missed the work that I did there. I learned so much here. It was a non-paid internship, so it was a struggle to get up every morning, but I went, right, and I learned, and so that propelled me into working at UMass Lowell, and then working in the Navitas program. And I knew ultimately I wanted to be an assistant director of marketing in that program. So I just continued learning from the folks there. I would sit down with like our marketing teams at the time and say, hey, why are we looking to invest in this area? Why are we doing these kind of campaigns? And ultimately, I became assistant director of marketing in that program. Got me to travel to 30 countries, I think, by 2017. And then moved over to George Mason, where I did an additional 15 countries that I'd never been to. But the key part of it was that just being able to learn, because um, every step of your career, for you to move up, you've got to be the innovator. At Walmart currently, for you to kind of go up to the next level as a director, it's what are you doing in your current process to make it easier for everybody else that could come into your process. Whether you're just a worker bee or whatnot, you still got to learn new techniques. You've got to learn new programs. You've got to learn new things. So a lot of it, I say, is that it's really important to just keep your head down, learn every chance, opportunity that you get. Before you have kids, take that opportunity up. It's really important, because when you're younger is when you're going to be able to soak up that information, and then implement it, so that you can kind of cruise in, once you get to mid-level career. But yeah, but I would say, like, definitely staying curious, being proactive, and then seeking opportunities. Always do that. I think those are the three things I think UMass Lowell instilled in all of us. I know for a fact that it still does with you there, because when you're part of a student club, you're managing money, right? You're managing money. You're learning how to work with people. You may have some vice president or president that you don't like, but you've got to figure out, how do we make this club be the best? I enjoyed getting those awards at the end of the year, the Student Club Awards. I enjoyed having ASCO be the best award, best organization, and that all of that transcended into the career for us today now, right? So you have to learn new ways, new ways to do things, learn new technologies, and just keep yourself being curious, and just learning. I think it's super important, for all of you.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, for like being curious. That's great. And I'm glad you got to experience travel to so many different countries. That was exciting and a great way to grow. Corey, did you want to share about embracing change and learning?
Yeah, I think I was thinking with this question from very much like a work perspective, but some of it can apply, I think, to personal life. And it's two parts. One is learning to accept that, for the most part, the change is going to happen, whether I like it, I agree with it, I want it to happen or not. And that's out of your control. But what is in your control is my reaction to it. And that's something that I think my parents would always talk about. And it's really helped me through some difficult things, is that I can't control it. And so I can resist it, and I can spend a lot of energy fighting it, but it's not going to be very productive. And I'd rather be productive and try and figure out, do I need to remove myself from the situation and I need to do something different? I can control that, right? But fighting it sometimes isn't going to be very productive. The other thing I think about too is sometimes it's helpful to take a step back and think about the bigger picture. And this is probably more so related to your career, but there's always going to be changes within your job that are going to confuse you. And you're going to say, what is that person, 3 steps above the ladder doing? And it makes zero sense. And sometimes you can take a step back and say, okay, this doesn't work well for me, but I understand where they're coming from. And just that understanding can sometimes help me rationalize of, okay, I don't like this, but this is why we're doing that. And, sometimes it's, the bigger picture can help justify it. To share a quick story of where this kind of materialized in person for me is we had this very, very unpopular change happen within our recruiting process. And a lot of people were not upset. Were very upset about it, excuse me. And I remember being in a session, we were trying to brainstorm, how do we solve this and how do we figure out a way to make it work? And I was spending pretty much the entire meeting complaining about it and talking about how I don't want to do it and how this is all the reasons why it doesn't make sense. And a peer of mine said, hey, man, really appreciate what you're doing here, but we have to do it whether we like it or not. So let's do it the best we can, get all the data, and then show them why this is a dumb idea, even doing the way they wanted us to do it. And that was pretty game changer for me, because I realized, like, okay, I can, almost out of revolting against the system and say, like, I'll do it the best possible, and then I'll show you how this was a really dumb idea and how, like, it wasn't productive or it was a waste of money, all these kind of things. And I think, what I took away from that is, okay, I have a job to do. I got to do it the best I can. Let's just do it the best I can. And then we can, and then it's almost like your concerns are more validated of, hey, I tried it and it didn't work. And here's why. And now you're approaching, instead of just venting, you're approaching it with, this is why it didn't work. And I have the data to back it up. Let's try something else. And so that's kind of how I like to approach change management and those kind of things.
That's great. I love how you were saying that you can't control a lot of things, but you can control how you react to them. That's a great example. I know we have about 10 minutes left, and we have a couple of questions that have come in. And one of them is, what advice would you give to your younger self or your younger college self when you were trying to develop as a young professional? So I don't know if any one of you wanna take that. Happy to come off mute and answer that. Nana, I see you came off mute first. If you want to take that
Yeah,
question.
sure. I think I'm big on self-reflecting and just taking account of where you've been. And a lot of the times now when I'm self-reflecting, one of the advice I say that I would give to my younger self is understanding that nothing has to be linear, meaning your career path does not have to be linear. I've had a very interesting career path where I've worked in higher education in a business level as well as a student service capacity. I've also worked in corporations where I was a program manager, project manager at Amazon, and then in my current role now, it's a totally different space. But I've tried to keep my kind of my impact the same. So meaning in a more strategy, business development capacity all throughout. So I would say, like, my advice would be to my younger self is, don't be so strong on, oh, I've got to grow between this, I've got to stay in this same exact function and I've got to grow. Career paths take many levels, many different shapes. And so don't be afraid to say yes to new opportunities, right? Because when I was thinking like that, and a manager would come and say, "Hey, do you want to do this?" I'd say, "No, I want to grow. I want to become the president of." I remember I used to say, "I want to become a president of a university." That was what I would say, and I still say it, but it's gonna happen. It's just in a different way. And so I would say, like, that's the advice that I would give myself: that don't say no to opportunities, and don't think everything has to be a linear path. Really, just be flexible, be adaptable, and like what Corey said, just know that change is gonna happen, and go with it.
Thank you, Nana. Corey, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I think Nana really said it very well, but I was going to say, yeah, don't try and game plan your entire life, because I think, especially in college, I was thinking way too much about what do I do in 10 years from now. And it's also, the part is, like, don't take it so serious, I think, was like the biggest advice I'd give my younger self, is that have fun sometimes, and, like, it's okay to fail. But no, I think Nana, eloquent as always, but wrapped up really well what I was going to say.
Great, thank you. Talia or Fang, do you want to take that question too? Is what you'd tell your younger self?
I think I want to follow up on what Corey and Nana just said about game plan and life being linear, because I think one thing we are very used to when we come out of college or grad school or whatever education system is, we conclude our semesters by taking these courses, finishing these assignments, dues, tests, getting a grade, and in the end, we get a GPA. And that's how we define success in college. But in real life, it doesn't really go as plannable like that, because things don't just get magically, done. If you did A, B, C, D, and then you submit your paper, and then you're expecting your manager to give you a raise or give you a promotion. Things doesn't happen that way. So when we go into industry, we need to be able to transition our mindset in a way that we're no longer finishing a task, we're no longer going to get a 4.0 GPA or whatever, but trying to understand how to have the best impact from your work, how to have the best impact from your work to your colleagues, to your teams, to your greater groups. And that is what will get you to the next place you want to be.
Great. Thank you. Talia, did you have something you want to share?
Not for that one, but I could do the next one.
Sure, about staying motivated. Yes, that would be great. How do you stay motivated after college and continue learning?
I would say two things. One is you kind of want to, like, it doesn't feel good when you show up and don't feel like you're learning, right? Like it's like procrastination. The things that I feel sick over are the things that I haven't dedicated enough time to learning, because the learning never stops. So it'll be like a project that I just need to sink my teeth into, and that's what keeps me up at night. And you don't feel good about that. Like you kind of find that I think most people find that if they, in their heart of hearts, that they feel better really tackling things and trying things. I also would say, I'm sure there's a lot of really hard workers in this room, and that is fabulous and terrific. I am definitely one of those people. I don't want to be working this hard forever, man, right? Like I'm gonna hustle and work super, super hard, but I don't want to be having to work this hard forever, right? So I realistically, when you graduate college, it's like, okay, get a house, take care of your kids, take care of your family, build your career, keep that confidence up, like keep learning and sinking your teeth in. But you should be thinking about, once you get in there, what can I be doing to be making smart moves right now to build a future for myself and my family? I think that's a pretty strong motivator, right? Like I don't want to be working 60 hours a week, or I mean, not saying I work that all the time, right? But crazy hours when I'm heading into retirement, right? So if you start thinking about those things, believe it or not, and make wise decisions and sink your teeth in now, chances are you'll be in a great position when you're older. But I do kind of keep my eyes on the prize. I don't know about anyone else.
No, I just want to, yeah, I think Talia, you mentioned that keeping your eye on the prize. It's absolutely, I think obviously you work to make money, right? You work to get a better life for yourself and your family. I think that's part of the motivation. Motivation is that especially I think for you guys at this stage, you're in this room because you're motivated. So you're already on the right track. You're doing the right thing. You're in this room because you want to learn, you want to see what other alumni have gone through. Additionally, you have an all-star cast with you. I mean, I cannot say it enough. You have Kristen, who's been at UML for over 20 years, Michael as well. You have Amy here as well. You have Rija. This is an all-star cast. And so that is already motivation. I think the next level is, and the way I saw it was, how do you set something up for yourself? And so now when I'm in conversations or when I'm going to an organization, I'm looking at, okay, how do I make sure that if I'm like, I have ambitions to start my own company, which I do in Ghana, but that came from just learning about the customer that I served. So when I was at UMass Lowell, I would learn about these people that would help students recruit. And so through that came about me setting up my own agency in Ghana. And then now I'm actively trying to grow that business, right? So I think you're already in a great space. Just continue to keep being motivated. Just continue to know that you just showing up, you just getting up, being in the space, being in rooms like this, that's motivation, and just keep building on that.
Great. Fang or Corey, do you want to share anything on that question about staying motivated?
I think I've become more motivated since leaving college, like to be frank. And I think, one of the maybe regrets I would have about my time in college is I didn't take more just like random classes. I think I was very much focused on just complete my degrees. I was very focused on clubs and activities, but I think there's so much access to information. There's so much access to hobbies or new technologies. I mean, Nana mentioned AI. There's so much you can do. And we're so fortunate that it's all at our fingertips. And so I think it's just continually being curious and always asking why has kept me very motivated. And also just not wanting to be bored, I think, is like simply as it is. You can get very comfortable with what you do, but it's kind of fun to say, hey, how do you write a computer program and then just start doing it? And there's so many free resources. There's also so much continuing education classes you can take with UMass Lowell. And so I think it's just being like not losing that curiosity and just finding something that is interesting and then finding a way to connect the dots, because there's new hobbies, there's all these kind of things. But I think we're fortunate that we live in an era when we can have all of this right at our fingertips.
Thank you, Corey. Fang, did you want to add anything?
So I think I want to say it is totally okay if you lost your motivation at some point somewhere, because we all been there before. And there's nothing to be ashamed of to lose your motivation, this and that. But it become our, our responsibility to find what is truly keeping us there. Like, think about why you come to work when you start every morning, why you go to school. Like, besides of the most apparent reason of getting, getting paid or to be able to raise a family, this and that, there are a lot more reasons that you engage in the work you do, and find that reason and try to amplify on that by engaging either in your workspace or elsewhere to truly pursue the meaning of that part of your life. So that's something we should not lose sight on when we going into a very busy world.
Thank you. I agree. I feel like we could go on for a very long time, but we're right almost at 5 o'clock, and I just wanted to thank and appreciate these panelists, Thalia, Fang, Nana, and Corey. It was wonderful to hear from you. I'm so grateful for you to spend an hour with us from all over the country. It was a great way to kick off our homecoming. We have a lot of events coming up this week. On Saturday is the big alumni takeover with a Hawaiian theme at the Sangha Center, so that we're hoping to get as many alumni there as possible. I know you're all around the country, but we so appreciate this time and effort that you have put in, that how much you love UMass Lowell. It really comes through. So I just wanted to say thank you. And we definitely will have the recording ready. We will share it on our webpage. So thank you all again, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the great week, and thank you again to our panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming and having us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks, everyone.